Hello, everybody. It's Everett with Ohio for Freedom, the program that is focused for the foreseeable future on talking about things in the church that we hope and really believe we are in the process of getting out of the church. And there is a lot to talk about. And there is so much to talk about. The scope and the seriousness demands great intellect, clarity of articulation. And it's going to obviously be beyond my pay grade. So I am thrilled and delighted to bring in the really big guns, the intellectual guns, the articulation guns. And it is my thrill and delight to introduce, first time to the program, Miss Lynn Damaris of the Gospel of Narc. Lynn, how are you?
I am so good, and I'm so honored and blessed to be here with you, Everett. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you. I think I gave you at least 5 minutes notice. Hey, can you come on? It wasn't much more than that. So, Lynn, listen, this is not an interview. We're doing this kind of deconstruct together. And I would just like to say to the audience, let's just sort of throw out a working premise, and then try to execute it, prosecute it, or whatever. So jump in at any time, please. Talk over the top of me. Oh, and by the way, just before I came up, the little lady gave me another bite of, this was filet. So if I fall asleep during the program, please finish the program and turn off the lights and lock the doors if you don't mind. But I'll try to speak. So on Friday, was it, Julie Roy's posted the article that detailed that because Robert Morris is facing criminal charges and somehow the Gateway elders want to possibly renege on a verbal agreement to pay him $1 million every year until he dies, and his wife like almost as much, but there seemed to be hedging. He filed some documents, and those documents tell us that. What do those documents tell us? We're just trying to give the bullets, and then we'll go through it.
Those documents spill all the tea on everybody around him. Robert Morris is in such a state of upset because Gateway Church is fighting him on paying him his golden parachute retirement now that he has 5 felony charges against him. And in the back and forth, his attorneys last week sent a letter to Gateway saying that every single one of the elders on the elder board back in 2005, 2007, and 2011 knew all of the details about the child SA against Cindy Clemishire, how old she was, how long it went on. They had every single detail. Every single one of these board members. And it's important that we know that because of the cover-up that continued to happen from 2005, actually prior to that. But we have, we've got meeting minutes, we have emails, correspondence stating and showing and proving that all of these men were privy to this information.
Okay. And I'm just trying to throw out the basic bullets that we will sort of maybe try to, if possible, attempt to go through. But folks, I got to say, there's enough rabbit trails that are worth going down that who knows how this is going to turn out. But if we were in perfect execution mode, we would point out that they all knew a long, long time ago. They all covered it up together. They all covered it up. They would later all say, gosh, Shazam, I didn't know that. That's terrible. And something that Lynn and I are going to try to get to today is they all oversee for each other, an apostolic elder for each other. And the question is, what kind of money does that gig pay? It's got to pay something. So, Lynn, you're the brains of the operation tonight. Where do we start?
I think it's good to start on the subject of apostolic authority.
Oh,
because that term has been bantered around, especially over the last few weeks. All of us podcasters got quite the dressing down from Heather Shot, telling us that we had no apostolic authority whatsoever to be on YouTube and speaking about the state of the church and the problems in the church. And that, you know, she is a spiritual leader and a legitimate spiritual leader
because she told us
her
so.
apostolic authority.
Yeah. Well, you know, she's a spiritual leader because she told us so.
Because she told us so.
Keep going.
The problem with Heather Shot's apostolic authority is that one of her elders is Dr. Michael Brown. So there's a problem because he obviously has some behavior patterns that do not line up with scripture. So that's the first problem. The second problem Heather Shot has with apostolic authority is a man by the name of Tom Lane. And Tom Lane was one of the original board members all the way back in the early 2000s that knew exactly what Robert Morris had done to Cindy Clemishire and covered it up. So now not only do we have Dr. Michael Brown as Mercy Culture's apostolic authority, but we also have Tom Lane. And to round out her trifecta of amazing apostles, or whatever you want to call them over there, is Robert Morris himself. He was the person that came alongside the Shots and helped them to birth and begin that ministry in the first place. So where does that leave us now in the body of Christ? If that's supposed to be the standard of authority and of ministerial behavior, no wonder why the church is in the state it's in right now.
Well, alleged, entertainment, opinion. But out of those three apostolic elders, if the Tom Lane fella figured in there now, and I think we need to, because not everybody's read this article.
Mm-hmm.
So just a minute, we need to go to 2007 and Karen Black and that group just for a minute to bring people in. So let's not forget to do that. But out of those three, the trifecta that you're calling them, well, Robert Morris. Okay, so one, you've got a pedophile. Okay. Alleged, entertainment, opinion happens to be right.
With federal charges pending, right? Or charged, actually.
Yeah, you know, I mean, what do the courts know? Okay. But so pedophile, Michael Brown's case, maybe not a pedophile, but certainly creepy 46-year-old on a 19 and 20, and then lying about it. We are gonna play that piece of video I told you about. And then Tom Lane, I don't know what he's done, but that court filing, and he knew. So he knew. So out of all three of them, they're all creepy and they're all covering, correct?
Right. Yeah, we have a pedophile. We have somebody that acted pervy towards their congregants, a married woman and a young college student, and then we have a hireling. When the wolves come, the hirelings just hightail it out of there. The thing that's so shocking about this all of this information that we have to thank Robert Morris for, literally, because it was his attorneys that brought this all forth. But the thing that's so utterly shocking is the way that these men knew. They knew about Cindy. They knew about her family. They knew what she had gone through. They knew all of the details. And in real time, they're covering up for Robert Morris. And there was even a point in time where they thought the news might leak. I think that was around 2007. And so they had to scramble and come up with some kind of a statement that they were going to give to the media of how they were going to spin this thing. So not only did they know about her, but then they're trying to cover it up. Then they're trying to spin it just in case the media gets a hold of it. It's absolutely astonishing that they would allow him to stay on that pulpit and preach and stay at the helm over there at Gateway for all of these years.
Yeah. And why don't we just for a moment, for everybody that has not read the Julie Roy's art, and you know what? Here's the thing: I think some of us are doing our job, and Julie Roy's organization is certainly doing their job because since this bombshell story came out on Friday, it's like buried. There's like 4 or 5 ahead of it. I mean, stuff just keeps coming out. But let's go back. The article. 2007, Karen Black. Can you just take a minute for anybody that hasn't had time, which is understandable, bring everybody up to speed on those items so that they understand why we can confidently say Jimmy knew, Robert knew, Joni knew, they all knew. Go ahead.
Right. So Karen Black is Cindy Clemenshire's older sister.
And Cindy Clemmenshire is?
Cindy Clemmenshire is the young girl that was 12 years old that Robert Morris essayed.
I'm assuming everybody knows that, but there's going to be somebody that's hearing this for the first time. Okay. Right. And so her sister, her married name is Karen Black. And go ahead, please.
Yes. And so after the assault happened to Cindy and some time had gone by, Karen Black, Cindy's older sister, was attending a church, and the pastor of that church was named Ted Haggard. Many of you may remember Ted from all the way back in the early 2000s, but Ted got caught up in a scandal with a male prostitute and some drugs, and he had to step down from his position. At that time, they were searching for and bringing in another pastor to pastor this church. And on the list of prospective pastors was a man named Brady Boyd. And when Karen Black, Cindy's sister, heard about this, she went to the search committee, the people that were trying to search and find who they were going to bring in to pastor this church now, amidst this scandal. They named him, and Karen said, please do not hire him. You cannot hire him. And they were asking her why. And she said, because he knows every single thing that Robert Morris did to my little sister, Cindy. And he is a pedophile protector, and you cannot make him the next head pastor of this church. You absolutely cannot.
Now, let me predict what happened. So I just want to kind of recap. Ted Haggard was pastor of and it was a mega church, which that was still kind of a new phenomenon in like the early 2000s. He was the president or the head, the number one person for national something or evangelicals or whatever.
Yes,
and he was absolutely powerful and squeaky clean, except he was having continual interactions with a male prostitute and doing meth or some other kind of drug on a regular basis. That becomes found out. A homosexual pastor, maybe bi, and doing drugs with a male prostitute. And so then that church that he's pastoring, that's a pretty big crisis. So I'm sure that church wanted to bring in somebody that absolutely not even a hint, as the scripture says, of sexual immorality or being close to sexual. They want to bring in somebody that's coming from a absolutely straight-laced and holy environment. But it doesn't sound like that's what happened.
It's not at all what happened. It's not at all what happened. And against her pleas to this elder board of a different church, amidst that, they still put him on. And not only did they put him on as the lead pastor, guess who came along with him as his apostolic authority?
Somebody creepy?
Somebody creepy.
Somebody that was head of a big church?
Somebody that was the head of a big church.
Somebody who was the very person that Karen Black had been warning them about?
Exactly. Robert Morris became the apostolic elder or authority over Brady Boyd as he pastored Ted Haggard's old church.
I went to the bother of putting slides together. And so this is Brady Boyd right here, right? And so this is like from his blog once he was installed, what's he doing here? He's telling everybody that this past weekend we had Robert Morris as guest speaker. So Robert Morris is not only speaking into somebody's life, he's coming to that church. Oh, wait a minute. This can't be true. This is making it sound like the very pedophile that Karen Black warned this search committee for is the same pedophile that was later invited to come in and preach for him?
Yes. And can you imagine being Karen Black and her family? Can you imagine going through that, knowing that you know the truth, knowing that these men know that some of the family members were, in some of these meetings with these elders? Robert Morris did admit to the elder board, his elder board, what he had done. In a way, they failed him as well, if you think about it, being so young at the time, right, in his early 20s. We're not excusing anything, but, the whole system is so broken and corrupt. And to watch the associations of the people in this network literally the doors got thrown wide open for all of us last week to see exactly who fits where and how they associate with one another and oversee each other's ministries and preach at each other's churches and fleece each other's flocks, basically.
Oh, we're going to show an example of that. I got to pause just for a minute. Twice in the program, and sometimes I forget, I let people know that if they would like to support Ohio for Freedom, we have a PayPal link and a Zelle link. The Zelle link is at ohioforfreedom@gmail.com. You'll see my first name pop up, and you notice there. Your help and your support is very much appreciated. So that was 2007. So all of those people were made aware, and it's not like they were made aware and they wouldn't have known this young girl's age, Cindy Clemenshire's age.
Right.
And did that include, where do we go with, I just want to say that included Jimmy Evans, because that's outlined in the article as well.
Yes. Jimmy Evans is the big name. Jimmy Evans is the big name in this story today because in 2020, Jimmy Evans made a public statement that he was leaving Gateway Church. And the reason why he was leaving Gateway Church was because of the heavy-handed, spiritually abusive tactics that Robert Morris and his other elders were using against, the other leaders and congregants. And so
what was Robert Morris doing that was so heavy-handed? Was he getting like a young man in a three-way consultation and saying submit, or what was he doing? What was he doing?
Something like that. It looks like Jimmy picked up some of his leadership pointers, because that's absolutely not true. I mean, so when he had said that at the time, and some of you may remember, I remember hearing that, and that was a notable thing. Why was it notable that Jimmy left in 2020? Well, in June of 2020, Robert Morris hosted President Donald Trump, and they did a roundtable. At Gateway Church, they hosted a roundtable where people came and they discussed different topics. I think mainly they were talking about racism in America and how to move forward with hope. And it was something that was really, really notable. And why would Jimmy Evans leave in the midst of Robert Morris getting so very politically connected? And now also, Robert Morris was slated to be Donald Trump's spiritual advisor. I'm not saying that was like an official thing. There are people, vying for that position, but he did have one of the largest congregations in the nation. He's very well known. At the time, people knew all of his books, and, he was respected among people that maybe didn't know the secrets that were hiding, in the shadows. But it's very notable that Jimmy left then, because why would you just walk away from all of that?
Why do you think that is? Is it because he was trying to get up ahead of a ship that he knew would eventually come crashing down, or what's going on there?
Jimmy knew something. Jimmy was privy to something at that time. Now, again, in 2005, in 2007, in 2011, there's rumblings, there's dust getting kicked up around this issue. The Gateway elders are afraid this is going to go public. They're trying to spin it. They're trying to tamp it down. So what was the difference between those 3 years and then 2020? You'll have to wait and see. But I believe we will. I believe we will find out what he knew when. But Jimmy
Okay.
Evans got way ahead of the story. Way ahead.
Way ahead of the story. Yeah.
Way ahead of the story.
See, we knew that we'd kind of go all over. This isn't all over, and this is coming clear out of the blue, but I know that you can think on your feet. Something else that occurred to me. However tight some of this stuff about Robert Morris might have been, kept, under the rug and all this stuff. By 2007, they have that search committee has Karen Black. So whatever the Gateway elders and people knew, that's one group. But we do know from these court records, by 2007, there was a whole group of people with the search committee that knew what was going on. That was 2007. And I'm just throwing this out there. What else happened in 2007? Oh, in 2007, it was discovered that Marcus Lamb was having that affair. And I'm not saying those two things are connected, but it's like in that whole general grapevine, Dallas, whatever it is there, you got a whole lot of covering up going on.
Yes. A whole lot of things that should never be named among the body of Christ. A whole lot of things that should never be in churches. And these are the quote unquote leaders of the television networks, of the largest church in the country, basically. Yeah.
Okay, so let's get back to your original apostolic elder overseer. Now, those roles and those functions, those are all performed out of a sense of duty to one's calling and basically out of the goodness in the heart. Nobody's doing that for money, are they?
Right.
I'm asking. Opinion. Are those services performed for free?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's a pay-to-play system. It's who you know and the who's who. And then you all go to each other's conferences and you preach at each other's churches. In that blog post that you showed that of Brady Boyd, he was saying, "Oh, Robert Morris came to preach at our church, and I went to preach at his."
I'm gonna correct you just. I'm gonna correct you just a little bit. All right, if I got it right. This past weekend, Pastor Jimmy Evans, or maybe he did say that about Robert and I missed it, but I know for a fact that I've got a slide that demonstrates. This is Brady Boyd. Pastor Jimmy Evans from Trinity Fellowship in Amarillo spoke at New Life while I was at his church speaking for him. He's been a friend for 15 years and he's a dad, and so all churches need a dad. Lynn, it's exactly what you just said. And so can we, some stuff we don't have receipts for, but there's a receipt. Nobody preaches. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, we do. I think all we would have to do is look on social media or website or, anywhere else. These people are posting constantly, like the Mercy Culture. They were celebrating Dr. Michael Brown and Tom Lane as their apostolic overseers back in, I think it was 2021 was when that was from.
Yeah.
But,
I got to interrupt you. We got to stop just for a second. I love Brother Ray Taylor. He's in the house and he's a frequent commenter.
Hey,
but
Ray.
Brother Ray, dude, I'm going to have to award you the Duh Award. Okay. Cause I know you can take my crazy humor. Here's the thing. Look at what Brother Ray says. He says, churches have become businesses. Brother Ray, I got to tell you, that gets the Duh Award because I appreciate you weighing in. Big ministry has become big business. And so keying in on what Ray is saying for a minute, do you mind, Lynn? Let's just think out loud. Okay. We're just rational people. Look at some of the revenue streams opportunities. So Jimmy Evans is an apostolic overseer, father to this church. There's got to be a percentage, like within the Assemblies of God or another denomination, there's always a certain amount, and which is designated to go upstream to cover like regional offices and stuff like that. But now Jimmy Evans is getting that.
Sure.
I'm imagining. What else is he getting? He's getting speaking opportunities within everybody. How many overseeings is he overseeing?
Right.
So there's speaking opportunities. What other money is on the table there?
There's all kinds of perks. Julie Royce calls this the evangelical industrialized complex.
Yeah.
And that is exactly what it is. You have the music arm, like the music and entertainment arm.
Yeah.
You have the publishing arm, where all of these people, if you're on the top tier, or if you have the right apostolic overseer, whether they're a pedophile or not, your book's going to get published,
Yeah.
There's,
and I just got to tell Brother Ray, thanks for letting me have a little bit of a joke at your expense, man. I didn't. I was confident, and also I'm sorry to interrupt you there, Lynn, but our good friend Marianne from Truth Be Told was saying they all get a piece
of the
pie, and I'm just going to keep thinking here, and then I'll turn it back to you, Lynn. But okay, so you're an apostolic overseer and a father, so you're getting a percentage. We're not stupid. We don't know what it is. But it's a percentage, I think. Okay. Then you're getting these speaking opportunities. But then you're also a kingmaker, because if you're an apostolic overseer over here, well, then somebody else wants to be able to put on their resume that you're their apostolic overseer. And then what kind of deals are made? Okay, when I come to speak to with your church, here's how the book table's going to work. But now if I'm coming, I need to be able to really spend some time making a push for monthly subscribers and donors to my ministry. Right. And there's just all kinds of intermingling, all kinds of commingling, all kinds of, and for this, what's in it for Brady Boyd if he has a Jimmy Evans as his spiritual father? What's in it for him? Let's think about that for a minute.
I think what's in it for him is a platform that he can be promoted in. He's rubbing shoulders with the likes of, Jimmy's like maybe the one-off from Robert Morris, although Boyd was on Morris's board too, so he probably had just as much access. But you have access to power. You have access to the kingmakers, the people that could publish your books and the people that can help you finance your great big building project that you want to do to grow your ministry, to keep fleecing more people. There's so much in it for them. There's so much in it for them. But what's interesting, Everett, is that, you said, what do you have to do to get into that kind of position? Like, what do you have to do to become a Heather and Landon Shot, to get noticed by a Robert Morris or a Jimmy Evans or a Tom Lane? Well, what did we learn over there at Daystar? What do you have to do in order to be in Joni's good graces?
I'm going to say two things, but this is me, and you're the teacher here and I'm the student. I can think of two things. One, you got to submit in honor, and two, you got to be willing to cover up.
That's right. That's right. You got to kiss the ring and cover the sin. And it's like the litmus test. So knowing all of that, who are the people in leadership in the evangelical world now, or at least this arm of the evangelical world? They're the people that will kiss the ring, they bow the knee to mammon, and they look the other way.
Yeah.
As far as sin goes.
Yeah. I want to do this. I want to throw both of us a total curveball. I'll let the video speak for itself, and we'll do not damage control, but we'll do relevancy control. But I know that you can handle it because you're here to provide above average intellect and articulation. Here we go.
Was prepping the narrative for the article.
He was going around. He was like on a tour to recruit pastors to cover for him.
Now, I apologize. Okay. StreamYard has changed something, and it's done it right at the time I had to go to Windows 11. it's challenging me. But we know I love these guys, and I think you're familiar with them too. But let me just let this play, and then we'll
for the article.
He was going around. He was like on a tour to recruit pastors to cover for him.
Yep.
And it worked with Landon, and that's what we're watching.
As we're watching. Then 1 week later, an email gets sent to the students at Mercy Culture saying Michael Brown assured us that nothing romantic nor sexual ever happened. This is December 4th. Michael Brown said these words to Landon Shot. Landon Shot said these words to his student. Fast forward, May of 2025. Is that the same story out of Michael Brown's mouth?
Up just being a very intense, emotional affair. I mean, I betrayed Nancy, the most wicked thing I ever did, and it got intense. Especially the end of 2001, and we both said some very ugly things to each other, sinful things to each other.
Or did the man change his story? Did he lie, or did he omit truth in any way, shape, or form?
You know, I just realized why they were so bent out of shape that we have this email. Because this is why. Because I was thinking whenever they're like, somebody told us they were like on staff frantically trying to figure out who leaked this, who's sending them stuff, who's sending them our internal emails, who's finding this out. But, and I'm like, why do they care? Like, if this is what you really believe and like what you think and how you want to defend him, why don't you post it on social media? Why don't you make it public for everyone to read if you really believe it? But you didn't want us to read it because then you just did an entire 3-hour podcast debunking your own email. Mm-hmm. So
dang. Now, this is something that I have to say that you just pointed out. They were freaked out when they heard that we had this email. Well, I heard just this week in a conversation with someone that when this email was mentioned on our podcast about 3 or 4 weeks ago, they were frantic to find out who. They were reaching out, who, like, who did this, who leaked it. And I'm thinking to myself, and I said this to you earlier today, I'm like, why were they like that? Like, why? Like, if a communication to a bunch of students goes out, and you have to freak out that it could be made public, what are you saying in there that's not okay to say?
Threw that in there completely out of the blue. It's your job to make it relevant, and I know you can do it, Lynn. Go ahead.
It is so interesting that the Mercy Culture Church has Dr. Michael Brown as an apostolic overseer, knowing all of the things in his background, and that it's the information that's leaking out bit by bit. That was sent to them by a student, I think he said, way back in February, they had gotten that email, I think, originally, stating that Landon Shot says, absolutely no, Michael Brown assured us he didn't do anything wrong. Again, the degree to which you can kiss the ring and cover the sin is the degree to which you get to climb the ladder, which is why Heather and Landon are so desperate to hang on to their place and their platform of power over there at the Mercy Cult.
Yeah. I'll just read a little bit of this, and I encourage everybody to go over there, but to Wake Up and Win with Blaze and Christina. But I'm just going to quote the part from Landon Shot. Heather and I are currently on our marriage retreat, but we recently came across the article by the Roy's Report regarding Dr. Brown. Dr. Brown informed me last month about the possibility of an article being published. He emphatically assured me that nothing romantic or sexual ever occurred, and that he has remained faithful to Nancy throughout their marriage. So I'll just stop right there. We won't go through that all. But Lynn, I felt like I wanted to bring that in there because Michael Brown is overseer to the Shots, and you're saying, but I thought we were talking about Robert Morris. Well, he had to get blessing or oversight from Robert Morris to start Mercy Culture, correct?
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's correct.
So pedophile Robert Morris, alleged entertainment, opinion is it's like the top warlock to give approval to Heather and Landon. Now they're overseen by Dr. Michael Brown, who, according to that email, lied to them.
Or did they lie for him?
Okay, so they lied for him. And then when they did this 3.5 hour, whatever, it wasn't really an interview a couple of weeks ago that all the podcasters have torn that apart.
Right.
They were furious because even what he said in that interview proves that he was lying to them.
Right. Exactly.
Unless Landon Shot was lying in the email, then Dr. Brown was lying to Landon Shot.
Right.
So wait, okay. Are you able to help me? So I don't understand. Why do you, if you're an up and coming pastor and you're trying to have a successful church, Lindy, do you really need a pedophile to oversee you, or do you need a liar to oversee you? Or do you need a liar and a pedophile to oversee you? I mean,
yeah.
I don't. Help me with this.
Mm-hmm. If you want to be a leader in the evangelical industrialized complex, then yes, you need to be able to stomach the apostolic leadership and their all of their shenanigans, because that's the only way you're ever going to push your ministry forward. It's the only way.
That's just,
we've seen it at Daystar. We're seeing it now in all of these other ministries. And the fact that all of these, it's like the who's who of the evangelical world, all knowing the worst sins about each other and completely continuing to promote. And because the money's flowing there, it's all about the money. And that's another question. This was a big question for me. All of these elders knew about Robert Morris and Cindy Clemenshire back in the 80s. Some of them knew. And then in the early 2000s, now we find out that all of these men know, and we have receipts. Why Robert Morris? Why did Robert Morris have to become the one of the greatest household names in the church today in our country? Why did they push him to the front? Why did he get all the book deals? Why did he get all the speaking engagements? Why did he get all the airtime when everybody knew? Is there a connection even there? There's just so many. There's way more questions now than answers.
I don't know if I can keep my powder dry on this. Okay, I got to make an announcement, everybody. On Thursday, no, I'm going to go here, Lynn, and help me walk out onto this limb and not fall down and make it make sense to the audience, because we knew ahead of time that we'd be doing some thinking tonight.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go into thinking land. So I'm going to make an announcement on Thursday of this week, which is my usual slot at 7:00. I will be joined by Pastor Ray Curry of the Unction. Everybody in the Ohio for Freedom office or audience knows, my high regard for Pastor Curry. I'm so thankful, so great that he's coming on. And we're going to talk about Freemasonry in the Black and White Church. It's going to be something you don't want to miss.
Mm-hmm.
Now, having mentioned Pastor Ray, I was talking about him behind his back, and I'll have to fess up on Thursday. And I'm going to tie it to what you were just saying. You were asking the question.
Mm-hmm.
Folks, it's okay to ask questions and think, and that's what Lynn and I are doing right now. So you were asking if everybody knew all this about Robert Morris, why did he rise to the top, right? Why did he get all these opportunities?
Mm-hmm.
Why did he? Was it Ithacus that had the wax wings and all that, or whoever? I mean, it's almost like he was set up. And folks, there's a project that I'm going to have more announcements about in the very near future. And I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but I was talking, Lynn, with a friend about how these structures work and how these hierarchies are set up, and how the strange interconnected. And he was explaining some things to me. I'm going to keep my powder dry about the group that he was talking about. And I said, oh, so if someone like my friend, Pastor Ray, who is extremely Bible literate, extremely well spoken, good looking, presentable, music, he's the whole deal.
He really is.
If he would just agree to play by their rules, somebody like that, they're just going to jump in, and he's going to be the next TD Jakes. He's going to be the next Creflo. He's going to be the next Jamal Bryant. And the person that I was talking to that I think is in a position to know said, exactly.
Yeah, you're saying the quiet part out loud, Everett. You're saying the quiet part out loud, because that is from, all of the things we have learned, even when you look at World Harvest Church and Rod Parsley. You're saying the quiet part out loud. There is obviously a system in place here. And it's not, oh, we just want to help this church, grow. And so we're going to just go over there and preach and, get everybody excited about the Lord. No. And then they have to have lordship over each other. And then they shift around the who's who of the people that know all the secrets. And they become elders and apostolic overseers of all of these churches. And then you have these young up and coming ministers that, get sucked into this or want it because they really want the fame, the fortune, and the followers. They're not really interested in the fruit of the Spirit whatsoever. Heather has already tried to convince the whole world that they have the fruit. Michael Brown has the fruit. He does not. We're looking at biblical fruit. I don't know what kind of fruit, they all judge each other by, but it's not biblical.
Well, I'd say they have the fruit of the greenback, and which leads me to, I'm going to ask this question. What was Robert Morris's motivation for including this in his court filing? Lynn, I apologize. We are getting bombarded. I have an intruder at the door. I'm going to have to answer that intrusion right now. Oh, looky there.
Vanessa, hi. Oh, I love seeing you.
I love seeing you too.
Oh my goodness, we've just been intruded. Lynn, I knew you could handle it. I asked Vanessa if she'd come on and surprise us, because she texted me with something very, very relevant about the question that I tried to ask. Why did Robert, is he just going for broke with that court filing? Vanessa, everybody knows who you are. Share with us your thoughts or your take about that, and then Lynn can react to it, because I'm putting her on the spot.
Okay, so I think where people are getting tripped up about it, the court filing is not a case, a court filing by Robert Morris that started the case. If you look at the motion that was attached to the article by Julie Roys, it's a motion for disqualification of an attorney. And that was filed by Robert Morris's disqualification attorney. So they're civil attorneys, and the case heading, if you look at the caption where it says, it says Gateway Church versus Robert Morris, the one on top is the plaintiff, and the other one, and the one on the bottom is the defendant. So the moving party is the plaintiff, the one on top, Gateway Church, and the one on the bottom is the respondent or the defendant, Robert Morris. So what's happening here, Robert Morris, for whatever reason, and I'm going to speculate later, but I'll get into that, but I'm trying to explain this. He is obviously going after the church, trying to get money that he thinks he's entitled to, and pursuant to their contract, their employment contract, he has to go to mediation first. All right. But he's trying to skip it, and he's trying to go to arbitration. So in response to that, Gateway Church has filed a lawsuit against Robert Morris, trying to, that's what's happening here, trying to kick it and saying, no, we need relief, judge. They're in this Tarrant County District Court, which is, I mean, they're different levels, but they're in this court and they're asking the judge to kick it so that they can go to mediation first and not arbitration. So that's the foundational aspect of this. Do you guys understand that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, Robert Morris is being prosecuted in state court for state charges involving crimes against a child, right? So under
Right.
she was 12 when the first one started. So he has 5 criminal charges, and for whatever reason in that state, it is being charged by the AG instead of like a county prosecutor or a state prosecutor. So it's being prosecuted by the AG, okay? So why did he choose, Robert Morris is who I'm referring to, why did he choose now to do this, where he's bringing all this attention to himself when he has these state charges, criminal charges, he's already been arraigned on, he's already had a preliminary hearing, and he has a second one coming up in September. And I anticipate then they'll probably do the calendar as far as like when discovery cut off, and they'll schedule that the jury trial. But why is he doing this now is a question that I've been pondering for the last 5 days, as I told Everett earlier today, because now in the court filing on behalf of Robert Morris, his attorneys make a statement saying that Robert Morris knew that Cindy Clemenshire was under the age of 13. So that's an admission. It's something that can be used in his criminal case.
Mm-hmm.
So Lynn, why is he doing? In other words, let's see if I got this right, Vanessa. He's weakening his own case with another court by what he's admitted there.
Mm-hmm.
So Lynn, how come why he's doing that?
Because he's a nuclear narcissist. And so a nuclear narcissist is like your garden variety narc, but they have such platform and prominence and power that when their mask slips and the jig is up and they're backed into a corner and there's no way out, they're going to burn the whole thing down. They're going to burn it all down.
It's almost like his civil attorneys, Robert Toby and Charles Chad Barak, are not in communication with his criminal attorney, Sharp. Thing.
Can we pause just a minute? I thought Carol's comment that I've got on the screen is remarkably simple and remarkably profound. She says, I'm starting to realize this is a club and we ain't in it. Well, she says are not in it. Carol, I don't think. And if I can just say this, one of the things that I think in this whole space that all three of us are in, calling stuff out, one of the things in the progression of that is I think we're going to begin to uncover more and more. Vanessa, we'll say it this way. Vanessa, did you catch up on any of Lynn and I's discussion about networks and hierarchies? And
I did. I was listening, and I had to go back out because I was doing a little bit of research, but I did get back in. I did hear you guys. Yeah, it was excellent.
Well, here's what I'm saying. When Joe and Jane Average Christian go to mega church and they see polished speaker giving his TED talk, for 20 minutes with a scripture and a half. And when they see Jimmy Evans on TV or Robert Morris on TV, we think that's the ministry. We're not accustomed to even thinking about the power structure and the mafia structure behind that. So going back to Carol's comment, I think she's onto something. There's a club and we're not in it.
It is a mafia. Because I was in the chat before I came on and people were talking about that. And I even wrote something down and I said, because it was something that Lynn, you had said, and well, both of you guys were talking about it, but the protection of the pedophiles. And I don't think it's just that. that they're covering. Think about mafia. There's all kinds of deeds that they're involved in. It's not just drugs and this and that. It's multifactorial. So this is just my opinion. I think that there are all kinds of things that they're covering for each other. And just right now is the pedophilia that's being uncovered. But there's all kinds of other abuses as well. Obviously, the cover up of that's another system in itself. But I think that there's going to be so much more that comes out. Financial crimes are always there. If we think that we're not paralleling with the secular, then we're off base. We are absolutely paralleling with the secular. What's happening there is happening here and vice versa. You can see it. Look at the Sean Combs trial. Same stuff. It really is. I mean, you've got the people in power, you've got the people in money, you've got the cover up, you've got people silencing, because people in ministry, they're getting these people like slave labor to work for them because, it's this great, almighty, powerful ministry. Same thing with Diddy. You've got these people wanting to work for him, and they're being all, worked to the bone, having to work so many hours. And these people are doing this because just like we are, just how we've created that realm, that platform of rock star level, we've done it. And it's got to stop. And how do we back it down? How do we dismantle it is the question.
Lynn, you got a comment?
Yes, you're 100% right. It's so similar to what we're seeing in the world. When you look at Hollywood, for example, Harvey Weinstein, at the top of the pyramid, like he was the who's who. You couldn't get a good role unless you bow the knee and kiss Harvey Weinstein's ring, And the music industry, it's Diddy. If you want to do anything in hip hop, you had to acquiesce to all of his demands. And there were many, and they were financial, and they were sexual, and they were inappropriate, and they were just terrible. But it's the same thing. It's almost like this Christian, Christianity in the church has turned into an entertainment business. And it's like, right? It's like, who's on TV and who's the headliner at this conference, and who's selling the most books, and who's got the best worship song, who's ranking at the top of the Dove charts or whatever. It's the same exact thing. It's all the systems of the world. It's not at all what God had created the church to be.
We're kind of all over, and we knew we would be, and we're going to stay all over. We are squarely in the realm of all over land. I'm going to play a piece of video in a moment, and then I'm going to play we're going to look at a screenshot, and I think we're going to look at two big shots, absolutely lying, but I'll let y'all decide. But this just popped in my head, and since we're in this kind of a format tonight, let me just throw this out loud and help me think this through. So we've somehow interwoven Heather and Landon Shot into this conversation because they're connected to Michael Brown and Robert Morris. Okay.
And Tom Lane. Tom Lane is their other apostolic overseer.
Oh, golly. Okay. And Tom might get a free pass tonight, but unless y'all have the powder dry, because my head is spinning. But let me answer this. Okay. I raised the question, what is Heather hiding? Why? Because I happen to know that Landon Shot was youth pastor at Rod Parsley's World Harvest Church, and that in 2006, they were gone in the middle of the night without a word. I also happen to know, and I spent some time in that youth ministry world, that was a really, really, really big youth program. It's not a gig that the average youth pastor would just be in a hurry to walk away from. And it's completely unethical and unprofessional for somebody to just bolt like that. But we also know from story after story after story after story after verified this and verified that if you left not under Rod Parsley's good graces, he would, and still does, absolutely blackball and try to destroy any future possibilities for you. So I'm just assuming that was a weight that Heather and Landon were operating under And if that's the case, how does that fit, Lynn? How does that fit into what we're talking about with networks and so forth and so on?
It's really interesting because we see by Landon's own account that he was walking through the streets of Texas or whatever, and then Robert Morris fathered him and helped him start his Mercy Culture Church. Like, how did you bump into Robert Morris? Like, how did you even bump into him? That's my question.
Vanessa, do you have a thought?
I do think they were at the Gateway Church for a while.
They all
yeah.
Yeah, they all play the game. They all know the rules. Hush, hush, hey.
Yeah.
Here's something, keep you quiet.
Well, if Parsley would use all his connections to make sure that nobody ever gets, because we've got people, we've got witnesses, we've got testimony. If that had happened to Landon and Heather, I'll make sure you never. So does it take a bigger warlock to undo what another warlock did? I mean, seriously, how does that work? Is that why he has such an allegiance to Michael Brown? Was Michael Brown able to use his whatever to overcome the ministry business curse that Parsley put on him, or how does that work?
Mm-hmm. I don't know how that works.
Someday I think we're going to be able to make the connection more easily than we do and understand it better. But
Mm-hmm.
my opinion, I think that they are all operating in this sphere, and they've been doing it for such a long time, covering each other. It's like second nature to them. And I mean, the flippant way that Joni just made that statement to Susie about, oh, there's a woman that's coming out in Oklahoma. Don't worry about Robert Morris.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they just know this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And Susie was shocked, and perhaps, Joni knowing that, and she didn't share it with her son and daughter-in-law. Well, because they're not in the club, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there are people, and they know. It's like having, just being able to figure out, oh, that person's in the club. They know who they are. And
Mm-hmm.
as far as Landon and Heather leaving there and not being in good graces with Rod, they probably left there, but they probably did something to make sure that they were still in good graces with him, because I don't know of any trouble. I don't know if he said that's been, do you?
But you're leaving in the middle of the night, and I don't know.
Well, yeah, something happened. But what I'm saying is perhaps they made, they did something so that he wouldn't go after them. That's all.
Or maybe coming under Morris's wing, like you said, a greater entity, kept the lesser evil at bay. But what really was interesting to me was, you have Robert Morris as your apostolic overseer. A few years ago, I mean, that was it. You didn't need anybody else. He was the one, right? According to before anyone really knew what was going on behind the scenes. But in 2021, that's when Mercy Culture put out those Facebook posts that now Michael Brown and Tom Lane are their apostolic overseers. Did Landon and Heather know that the news was heating up over there at Gateway and was about to, to come forward?
Yeah.
Why would you pick two other lesser people and push them out front like they're your apostolic elders when you have Robert Morris already?
Vanessa, you got a thought? I mean, that's pretty good thinking to me.
I think so too. I think you're onto something. I think that's an excellent point. And I think that signals that they might have known what was coming down the road. And so they're just replacing him, even though he met him walking down the street,
And also, when the news about Morris came out, wasn't Landon pretty quick to put out some kind of press release or something about, oh, this is awful? I mean, he didn't try to stick up for Morris at all, did he?
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember. Landon and Heather were never on my radar.
Yeah.
And I didn't know them last year when that came out about Robert Morris. I didn't know anything about him until this year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, Vanessa, I coaxed you to come on, and we're probably within a few, but I'd like to do two things, and then I want to come to this question. I want to say two words as a question. Plea deal, but that's coming. I want to see if we can detect. We're just going to go on a little lie detection foray. The first is going to come in the form of a piece of video. And here we go. Nope. No, let me see. Oh, StreamYard and I are not on good terms at the moment. Come on now. There we go. This is from the video that the Roy's report put up. But we're going to listen to this guy, the Boyd Boy guy.
I've been your pastor now almost 17 years, and I'm grateful for that. I was thinking about how honored I am, how thankful I am for the longevity of being here with you. And with that comes relationships and trust, and I hope that's reciprocal. I love you. I trust you. I hope that's likewise. This week's been a hard week for me on a personal level because of what's happening at the church that I once was a pastor at Gateway Church in Dallas-Fort Worth. And I want you to just kind of keep in prayers this week. First of all, pray for the very courageous woman, Cindy, who came forward with new information and that led to the resignation of the pastor there. I know that pray for her. We want her to continue to heal.
I'll be sensitive to time. When he says new information, is he telling the truth or is he lying?
Lies.
Well, he's telling the truth if it's new in the sense of people are hearing about it publicly now. But it's a bold-faced lie. It's a bold-faced lie. And Robert Morris brought us the receipts.
Vanessa, was he lying in that piece of video?
I was like, new information. Yep. No, it's a lie. These people, and you know what they count on is that people aren't focusing on every word. They just like slip that in. It's not new information. Y'all knew.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like when Gary Cassie said, there's no one presently on staff that is under investigation because I got my son off the payroll just in time. Okay. So my take, opinion, education, entertainment. You're lying, buddy. You knew, and the receipts are there. You knew this was not new information to you. Oh my goodness, this is the way these people roll. Okay, and then I'm going to ask if this is a lie. Also, I don't. It's probably too small to read, but Jimmy Evans' statement. Who wants to take that one?
Mm-hmm. You want me to take it? Yeah, Jimmy Evans is stating that he knew nothing. First of all, he left Gateway because of their heavy-handed and so terrible spiritual abuse that they perpetrate against their people. And we know that's a total lie because we've got the tapes that Jonathan gave us to prove where Jimmy stands as far as that goes. But for him to tiptoe away quietly in 2020 and then pretend like he knew nothing about it now. And, you know, I actually had one of our subscribers wrote to me and said that he still gets Jimmy Evans Tipping Points newsletters. And a week ago, Jimmy Evans was still saying that had he known the age of Cindy at the time, you know, he never would have worked with Robert Morris ever. And I'm trying to get a hold of that. I asked him to email it to me and I haven't seen it come through my inbox, but when I do, I will share it with you. But all the way until, you know, I don't think that Jimmy Evans and any of the other elders ever thought in a million years that Robert Morris would literally bring the receipts and out himself and out all of them at the same time. You know, jokingly, he's a nuclear narc. Yeah, Morris is. But the other thought I had was, is he trying to prove in some way that like he was a victim of this elder board, that they allowed him to continue ministry somehow, even though they knew, and that they were complicit with him in covering up the fact that Cindy was a child? You know, it's all a mess. But Jimmy Evans knew. He's known from the beginning. He's known all along. He's the one that told Joni that the story was about to break. So he knew well ahead of time. He hightailed it on out of there at Gateway to make sure that he wasn't even going to get any smoke on him. Never mind any of the other rubble that was about to go flying when the story blew up. But yeah, Jimmy Evans just is incapable of telling the truth. Absolutely.
Vanessa, do you have a reaction to what Lynn just opined about?
She summed it up very, very well. And I mean, they just can't tell the truth. They all have that similarity in common. So no, I mean, not much more to say about that.
So when Jimmy Evans says to this subscriber that of Lynn's, that's if I'd have known her age or whatever it is, I mean, as of Friday, I think am I right? As of Friday, we know that is a bald-faced lie. Jimmy Evans knew who she was and how old she was.
Yes.
End of story. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And here's, sorry, just to tell you, I just looked this up because I was looking at the crimes in Texas for not reporting. So it's a Class B misdemeanor, which I'm not sure how they classify, you know, if that's going to be a 60-day, 90-day, whatever it is, jailable offense, but it's below a year. But, you know, anybody that doesn't report abuse, and we all know this, most states have this, where if you suspect abuse, you are required in certain capacities to report it. So in my opinion, he's throwing everybody, meaning Robert Morris, is throwing everybody under the bus here. And this opens up the door to these people being potentially criminally charged, but they're all misdemeanors. I don't even know if that's his goal or if he's just trying to out them because he wants to go out with a bang. I'm not quite sure.
Is he trying to get a plea deal of some sort, or is that probably not because it's not powerful enough? Or what do you think?
Well, I mean, I'm not sure what the end game there would be. So a plea deal on his state charges for the crimes against Cindy Clemenshire. Okay, so he has 5 and they all carry 20-year sentences. They wouldn't be looking for a misdemeanor. You know, this is nothing. So the failure to report is nothing. That's why I say that. You know, that's what he's doing, is he's disclosing that these people should have reported it and they didn't. There has to be something else. So I wonder, is there something else in the works that's cooking right now where he has some goods on somebody else that could be a federal charge? You know, it wouldn't involve the AG. I mean, this would go to the feds. Is that a possibility? And then the AG is working with the U.S. attorney? I don't know. I mean, I'm just totally speculating. Don't say what I'm not saying. I'm just saying if he is doing that, or I think that it would have been silent and he wouldn't have done that if he really was working with somebody, you know, with an agency. So I'm just thinking out loud. I don't think so. But back to the plea deal. Well, I think it would be wise if there was a plea offered by the AG's office, because the man is like, what, 62, 64, I don't know, somewhere in that age range. And if he is even found guilty of one, which I believe he will be,
yeah,
I highly suspect he's going to be found guilty of all, because not all of the crimes were charged. So she's going to talk about all kinds of things that happened. But obviously the focus when she testifies, Cindy testifies, it'll be on the 5 counts that were charged. If he's just charged on one, he could get 20 years. And we have to consider the stacking. If he is charged with all 5, is it possible that the judge will do an upward departure because it's heinous, because it's so, you know, abusive? Could he stack those, meaning that they run consecutive and not concurrent? That would be 100 years. I don't know. I mean, but he's looking at some serious time. And it's not just Cindy.
Kenneth Copeland could do the 100 years. I'm sorry, I digress. Go ahead.
He could.
Sorry. That was.
I love it. But, you know, here's the thing. The testimony, the evidence is coming from Cindy. She's going to make a credible witness. I mean, you've all seen her talk. She's going to witness. And everybody's already heard about it. Yeah, they're going to have trouble probably picking the jury, people that don't know about it. But that doesn't mean anything. People can hear about it, but that doesn't mean that they've already, you know, rendered an opinion. If they say, I can listen to the facts, I can apply the law, and I'm not going to have any partiality, they could potentially sit on that jury. The other thing is, Robert Morris has made a lot of statements. There are probably going to be people coming in like this Tom Lane that he made statements to saying, yeah, he knew that she was 12. I mean, he's made various statements. He's like Michael Brown making statements. You know, these people don't realize that their statements will catch up to them. Great for us. But, you know, that's what's going to happen to him. I don't see a way around it for him in regard to prison time. And maybe, and I don't know if I've shared it with you, Everett, but I was also thinking about, why is he doing this now with the money thing? I mean, he has a lot of money. Doesn't he have like millions and millions of dollars? So
I believe so.
Mhm.
Right? What's happening that he just wants that million, right? And then that 800,000 each year until he passes, and then the 600 for his wife. I mean, when is enough? When is money enough? So I don't know if greed is causing him to do this, because in my opinion, I would just be like, hey, stay out of the limelight. You've got this criminal charge pending.
Mhm.
But Lynn, you felt like the Lord showed you something. I heard you say, I don't know if it was early this year or last year or whatever, you've already mentioned it, but and maybe we can close on this. What does it look like to you that his motivation is?
For Robert Morris,
Yeah.
I believe his motivation literally is to just burn the whole thing down.
Because he is a
nuclear narcissist. And that's what he is. I did have a question I wanted to add. As we were talking, I was thinking, now that we've got so many of the top dogs here dropping like flies all over left, right, and center, right? And no one can hide now because the news is out there, and we're talking about it in a way that we're able to, each one of us are taking pieces from each other, like Blaze and Christina, thank God for them over there at Wake Up and Win. And we're able to put the pieces of the puzzle together now. So no one can really hide. Who's next in line for that austere position of, head honcho, now that Robert Morris is not in that spot anymore? Who is it?
I personally hope that spot itself is destroyed and that the whole institution goes away. Yeah. I'd like it to be the local pastor that has about 100 people in his church, and he has everybody's phone number, and they have his phone number, and they actually get together and pray and have meals together, and they're actually a church. Can I just, we still watch these Christian movies that tend to be real hallmarky or anything like that. But what is the throwback? It's always they're out in the country, and there's a country like white clapboard, like Methodist church kind of looking thing, where there's a pastor that knows everybody. And they're singing, bringing in the sheaves or something. So that's still our idea of what, but it doesn't exist anymore. I just went off on a rabbit trail. But that something real, maybe like what Pastor John T is doing out in California, but something real is what needs to take the place of the preeminent position that you were just talking about, Lynn, in my humble opinion.
Amen. Agreed. 100% agreed. Well, I did want to mention one other thing too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not to keep talking over you, but we talked about this on the phone.
Yes, we did.
Robert Morris is trying to go after his millions in retirement, and Gateway is fighting him on that. Why doesn't Gateway just give all that retirement money to Cindy Clemenshire and her family?
Thank you.
Why don't they show the fruits of true repentance and bless her and restore her the way she should be restored and her family?
I'm not an attorney, Vanessa, but Lynn, there's pain and suffering, there's opportunity lost, and there's even literal hard expenses that this poor dear woman has had to endure with counseling and so forth. And Lynn, I don't think in all the narrative that we have or all the stories, has anybody even offered a penny to her to help her with any of that? I mean, that's what you're saying, right?
Yes. I haven't seen Gateway and their new board of elders make any such statement. They're fighting tooth and nail with Robert Morris now over not giving him the money, but why aren't they standing up and doing the right thing, truly?
So I can tell you why. From a legal standpoint.
There's a legal reason.
There is always a legal standpoint. Their attorneys would never allow them to do that because it would be admitting guilt. Okay. Or, culpability. So their attorneys wouldn't do that. However, there's ways to do it. They probably had opportunities. There's still ways to do it. But yeah, it would be nice to see that. And while the statute of limitations has run on Cindy's potential to file a civil lawsuit, there's still restitution if Robert Morris takes a plea deal or he's found guilty. There's still restitution. So remember, she wanted $50,000 past and future counseling. I wouldn't be surprised if she gets awarded something like substantial, because this is 40 years plus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, ladies, if there's, we're an hour and 15 in. I think that's a wrap, but I want to make sure that we plug both of your programs. But Vanessa, do you have any last word, or do you have anything on the table that you wanted to say before we shut the doors tonight?
No, one thing, there was a comment that somebody had made about Cindy's parents, why didn't they do something? I think that they did. When Cindy first disclosed, she was 17 years old. And I think that their focus, I could be wrong, but everything that I've looked at, their focus was really just, there's this fly that's flying around me. They really just wanted to keep it quiet. They chose not to go to the police. I think that they wanted to keep it in the church, trying to deal with it in that way. And that happens, you guys. I mean, yeah, I always say, go to the police, stop, dealing with the church. But these people, that's what they knew. That's what they were trying to do. And unfortunately, it ends up biting you in the butt, because then the statute of limitations runs. So
it was a very different time back in the 80s too, as far as our awareness and so forth. Yeah. I didn't mean to interrupt, Vanessa. I'm just saying, I can't as much. I'm certainly not going to trash her parents. But yeah, that kind of makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They chose not to.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Lynn, you get the last word.
I thank you so much for having me here, Everett. And I'm so glad to have you here too, Vanessa, with us. This concept of apostolic authority needs to go. And if there's anyone out there that goes to a church and their pastor tries to heavy hand them with this kind of leadership style, please pack up your Bible and get out of there as fast as you can.
Yeah, but what if they've got the qualifications? What if they are a pedophile and they can cover up and they lie well and they've got other people in their network? I mean, that makes them pretty valuable, doesn't it?
Yeah. Run. Just go get your Bible, run into your closet, and go pray.
Wow. Okay. Vanessa, if I know for sure, if people go to YouTube and type in Vanessa Johnson, they'll be able to find your channel.
Yes.
And Lynn, how do people find your channel? And then I'm going to hit that Ohio for Freedom music, and we're gonna go eat something.
We're at the Gospel of Narc on YouTube.
Great.
All right. Folks, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you check out Lynn's channel, Gospel of Narc, Vanessa Johnson's channel, Gospel. Sorry, I've been up too late, y'all. And Thursday night, join us for sure with the great Ray Curry at 7:00 Eastern. And until next time, God bless you. God bless your family. God bless the state of Ohio, and God bless the United States of America. Good night, y'all.
I hear the sweet sound of freedom, and I won't be long.